So we're hashing the password. Now, before we dive into the token creation, let's go to the login function and check how we now actually, with the password being a hash instead of plain text, can compare the password the user sends us, which of course in the end on the server is plain text, to the password in the database, which is not plain text. Now for this we can again use the bcrypt library, because there the idea is that the bcrypt library knows how it created the hashed password. If we provided a new password, a plain text password, it can find out if that password could have been used to create the hash that's stored in the database. So we will in the end not recreate the hash, but we will check if the hash we have for the password in plain text that is provided makes sense. So therefore in the login function, we will still check if we maybe don't have this user. So I will remove that second check here and just check for the user existence. And if we don't, we already return an error, because that means we couldn't find a user for the provided email address. If we do find a user though, then we can check the password. For this, I will add a new variable, isValidPassword, and by default set this to false maybe. And then here, I set isValidPassword equal to await bcrypt compare. Compare also returns a promise, and compare now takes the plain text password, which here is in the password constant. We're extracting this from the incoming request. So we compare the plain text password to the hashed password in the database, so to existing user.password. So this is now not the plain text password, but the hash. We compare that, and this returns a promise, which then in the end yields a boolean, which I stored in isValidPassword. Now, as always, and that's why I split this into a variable declaration and then usage, as always, we want to wrap this with try catch to catch any potential errors. Here we can just say new HTTP error could not log you in. Please check your credentials and try again. However, this is a server-side error. This error will not be thrown if we have invalid credentials. This is just an error if something went wrong during the comparison. Instead, we will always get back a boolean, even if the comparison fails. Even if we can't confirm the password, we don't get an error. Instead, we just get false as a return value here. So therefore, thereafter, as a next check, I will check if isValidPassword is false with an exclamation mark at the beginning, because if it is, then we can again return our invalid credentials error, because here we know that the password is not correct. If we make it past this if check as well, we know the email address exists and the password is correct, so then we can generate the token.